Today is exactly 2 months since I picked up my American Express British Airways Premium Plus card and began my challenge of Avios Points hoarding. See how many Avios Points I can collect whilst using this card. As a reminder, it's 1.5 Avios per pound spent and 3 Avios per pound spent on British Airways. Now, I haven't actually done a major video since the launch. I did one about the card itself, but 2 months in, I've got a good grasp of how things are coming along. But also, I realised I was so too narrow. I painted myself into a corner when I said I would just use the Amex card. So instead, what I've done is went back to my 8 ways to boost your Avios points video and took some of those additional tips to bring in a more rounded, more interesting Avios points run. The rationale for my self imposed challenge was that the Amex card, this Premium Plus Amex card, gets you a 2-for-1 companion voucher at £15,000 of spend. So basically, I will then see how many Avios points I could get through all these various different means. As a reminder, I started off with 618,231 points. I'm using my household account total here. Actually, as I mentioned household accounts, I'm going to do a very quick aside here, which is my household account has disappeared. Thank you so much, BA. Really appreciate that. Not only did you mess up the club, you also messed up my travel year, and now my household account is defunct. I disappeared. I tried to log in, isn't there. Tried to add my partner, can't do it. I did call up, and apparently we're there. We're on the system somewhere, but it's not here. So that is another annoying thing about the change, and hopefully they'll sort it out because I'm hopefully going to go away pretty soon. And if they don't give up some, if we got lost in the system and they're not going to give us appropriate tier points or anything like that, I will be super peeved off even more than normal. But today is about the Avios points. The Avios points, British Airways version of Air Miles. It's not just British Airways, there's a ton of companies who are part of the scheme. Join me then as I wander through the last 2 months of a spend and see how this Avios system works, some of the pros, some of the cons, and everything in between. So join me for my Avios Muchachos 2 month check in. Right, my first Avios stream was Nectar. Nectar being the loyalty points for the Sainsbury's group. So Sainsbury's, Argos, I think Esso's part of it, loads of other ones. In the video, I said an effective way to boost your Avios is to convert Nectar to Avios. So you can convert it either way, Nectar to Avios or Avios back to Nectar. So if you are a shopper, most people do shop, and you are near a Sainsbury's or you're a loyal customer of Sainsbury's, one way is just to keep amassing those Nectar points and convert them every single month or whatever it is once you get to a certain threshold. And I have been leveraging the offers that come in as a reminder each week, every Thursday for me. I'm not sure if it's the same for everybody else. Sainsbury's will send a list of 20 plus offers through. Get 40 points for buying some jam or 80 points for buying some wine. They tend to be quite generous on the wine, actually. That's good, especially if you can get the 6 or 3 for buy 3 and 25% off, or 6 and 25% off. But that's a separate issue. Their last couple of weeks, they've sent through a triple Nectar points if I spend over £70, which is worryingly easy to do. Anyway, so I racked up all in all 8,000 Nectar points in the last 2 months, which I have converted to 5,000 Avios. So my first Nectar points bin stream of Avios has got me 5,000 Avios. Let's move on to the second bin now, which is spend. Yes, Avios, if you register your card or you go through the portal, you will get certain bonus points for various different companies and spend. Now, I'm going to divide these into two. The first one's god awful and frustrating, which is the online version. For some reason, it doesn't seem to register. I've tried it 3 times now. Once was for puzzles. Yeah, Wazjig puzzles. Never seen Wazjig. Love Wazjig puzzles. They're just fantastic. Anyway, 2 for £15. I thought I'd start low and see how we go. The website tracks you. So you click on the link and it will track your move or your crossover to the other website. And in theory, you then get the bonus points once the transaction has gone through. Didn't work for Argos, even though it tells me it was tracked. It also didn't work for Viator. So I booked a day trip out through this for Viator, which was 10 points for every Avios spent. And I also bought some new headphones via a Sony offer, which is 10 Avios for each pound spent. Excuse me. So none of those, they're all registered as being tracked. None of that's come through. And I've tried the Argos one and nothing, missing points. So really annoying. Make sure you either don't bother with it or check exactly what the cookies are, because I can't get my head around it. So I'm going to probably not use that, because that would be at least 5,000 points that I could and should be entitled to. So avoid that. And the in-store option, as I mentioned, you register your credit card, and when you pay with that credit card, you should, in theory, get the additional Avios points. And if you're using the Amex, obviously that stacks up. Now let's ask a dear old friend to see whether the in-store option is as atrocious as the online experience. Here I am outside Paul. Let's see if my Amex card will work, and let's see if I get any Avios points at long last. I thought I'd play it safe with Paul, just buying a coffee. It's not going to break the bank. The offer is 5 Avios every pound you spend in store. So I duly registered my American Express cards with the Avios website and went to buy a cappuccino. My heart sunk when I went to pay because it didn't work the first time, but second time lucky. Phew. I then waited with bated breath to see whether the Avios came through, and they did. Yes, I got the Avios. So it looks like the in-store experience is probably a little bit more reliable than the online one. Really going to have to check out what the cookies need to be and all this sort of stuff. So make sure you do all your research on that before you start spending hundreds or thousands of pounds expecting to rack up Avios, because you may be very disappointed. That was only 20 points, so I'm not going to add that to the total. What I'm going to do is then roll that whole massive 20 points into my wider spend. As I said in my Amex card review, I have been using this card to consolidate a lot of my existing spend. So when it comes to shopping, obviously Sainsbury's, I've been using it for my commute as well. So it works on TFL, down most pubs, restaurants, all that sort of stuff. So collectively, the last 2 months are spending with the 1.5 Avios, which is very concerning how much money I'm spending. Hey, it's almost like there's a recession coming. People are starving, and I'm waving around my card like it's nobody's business. But yeah, my total Avios for my incremental spend, not incremental, it's lifestyle, is 5,992 Avios points for the last 2 months. So let's add that to the tally. The next stream that I've discovered, which I'm saying it's good, but bear with me because some people may not like it. And I've not seen a lot of people actually talk about this, but the Avios for Thought program. Yes, if you go to the Avios website, you can sign up for their their market research brand, where you fill out surveys. Now, this has some really good points and some really bad points. A good point is you get 600 Avios just for signing up and doing the induction. So even if you just do that, that's a nice little booster. However, what they do is each day they roll out usually between, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 different surveys, ranging from a few minutes to I've seen ones that estimated duration of hours, where you will receive Avios points just for filling out these surveys. Mostly sort of 20, 40, 80 points, but I've seen some big ones. I think the top one I've seen was 350 Avios points for one survey. Now, I wouldn't recommend sitting there because it'd probably take hours to do. Importantly, is to counteract this, because obviously you're giving up your time, and if you busy or working, this stuff isn't really worth it. So what I've done is just filter it into those little parts of the day when I've not got anything else to do. So, for example, when I am on my morning or evening commute, half an hour it takes roughly on the train. You usually do two or three surveys during that period. If I'm down the gym on maybe on the exercise bike, tap away a few surveys, or just on a Sunday afternoon, just at a loose end, do a couple of surveys, and you can actually rack up a surprising amount of Avios points. Now, the disclaimer on this is that they are very, very repetitive. So I try to have a little break every couple of days because there's only so many times you can fill out. What age are you? Where do you live? How do you identify? Yeah, they do all ask how you identify, and it can be really, really draining and boring and give you a headache. And it's so repetitive. But low hanging fruit, it's an easy way to rack up your Avios. So I know what you're asking. How many Avios have I racked up in this period on Avios for Thoughts? Well, I'll tell you, it's 6,096 points just from doing a few of those, maybe every couple of days. Keep an eye out on the bigger ones, usually like the 80 points. They tend to be the sweet spot. You also get two Avios if you're ineligible. So you might just click on the survey, do a quick question, and say, sorry, you haven't got in. But the fact is, you will get two Avios points. So you can actually spend within 5 minutes, you can easily get like 10, 20 Avios points, depending on how many surveys you can do or how many you're eligible and how many you're not. But yeah, definitely check it out. It's a nice little way to boost the numbers without being too time intensive if you do think about it in a strategic and careful way. And otherwise, I'm saying it could probably drive you loopy with the amount of finickiness in some of the surveys. But yeah, have a look, see what you think, and maybe get a few thousand Avios points for a laugh. As a quick addition to that, if you do have the patience of a saint and are not going to be driven absolutely up the wall, Nectar also have a very similar program. It could even be done by the same platform where you get Nectar points for your thoughts. So if you wanted to go back to Nectar and switch that over, then that's absolutely fine. Right, we're on to the bigger hitters now. We're on to the next stream, which is the British Airways spend. So three Avios for every pound spent on British Airways. I foolishly kept. I had a holiday coming to the States where I had just over £3,375 left to pay. Now I saved that till the new April, the new year for the tier points because I thought the Amex card would have had the tier points already done. But another clanger, another bungle from Rainbow with British Airways that's not the case. I've seen a bit of speculation. I think there's quite a lot of customers have either left Amex or there's some kind of disagreement there. I have no idea. But another frustration. But anyway, so I paid off that holiday and that bagged me 10,635 Avios points with the triple Avios spend on the Amex card. So we can add that to the total as well. And the final one was the big one, wasn't it? There was the signing on bonus. So British Airways sent me an incentive, an offer saying rather than the bog standard 30,000 points, we'll give you 60,000 points if you spend over 6 grand in the first 3 months, which very concerningly I have been able to do. In fact, I'm already halfway to the companion voucher. So I really need to be a little bit more shrewd and careful with my money. Although, actually, I think in fairness, it's more so the fact that everything's consolidated now. So a lot of the grocery spend and other those things that would come out the joint account ordinarily are now being put onto this card. So there's a few other factors there, but yeah, so I did it. Now, I did have another way to boost my Avios that came in from British Airways, which was a booster, 40% booster if you bought Avios. However, I decided not to do that. It would have been a really easy way to get even higher, but I was pretty convinced that I had to stay focused on trying to make this all as natural as possible and part of my normal spend rather than artificially inflating the figures by buying Avios. So that one's out the window, but if they look like a pretty good offer, certainly in terms of the value for pound per Avios. There were a few other odds and sods of spend, added a few points here or there, won't get bogged down in that. Let's talk about then the grand total. How many points did I rack up? 87,833 Avios points, which takes my household total to 706,064 Avios points. Wow, that is quite a lot, isn't it? And hopefully the companion voucher will come through very soon, and I will enjoy looking at where I can eke out those points and go somewhere funky and fun. Ideally in first class. Maybe I'll see my friend Max in the lounge or on the plane. So there we have it. I am comfortably on my way to racking up 100,000 Avios points through my existing spend, and I will keep you posted on how things pan out over the next few months. If you've made it this far and appreciate people with beards, that's it, then you can always like and subscribe. I'm getting a little bit more momentum. I'm nearly at 4,000 watch hours. Boo. I'll do a video on that separately because it's another interesting topic. Okay, please do like and subscribe. Otherwise, I will probably never see you again. Take care. Ta ta. Bye bye. Auf Wiedersehen.